Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Today, I want to talk about the Boston Bruins. Good day for that. Not only that, the Stanley Cup final is not decided yet. Tampa Bay won last night and closed in 3-2 for Colorado. Also, Patrice Bergeron reportedly will sign a contract extension in Boston. So let's have a look at the team, how they did last year, and what their outlook is, because I think there is. This will run into something I will mention at the end. So sit back, enjoy. Let's talk about the Boston Bruins. So the Bruins. The numbers are on the board. Let's go through it quickly. Their stats of the 2021-2022 season. The top scorer was Brett Marchand. He is 34 years of age. He played 70 games, 32 goals, 48 assists for 80 points, of course. Yeah. His cap hit is $6.125 million until 2025. David Pastrnak, 26 years of age, 72 games played, 40 goals, 37 assists for 77 points. His contract runs to for one more year for $6.6 million. $6.66 million. And that's, both contracts are bargains. Nothing to discuss about that. Third best scorer was Patrice Bergeron, who will be 37 when the next season starts. He had 73 games played, 25 goals, 40 assists for 65 points. Officially, he still is a UFA. Reports are that he will sign a one-year contract around the $6.8 million range that he made the last 8 years. So another bargain, but will this stay a bargain? Because the guy will be 37 when the season starts. And his numbers are finally on the downswing. Let's see what happens next year. Next best scorer for the Bruins, Taylor Hall, 30 years of age. 81 games played, 20 goals, 41 assists for 61 points. $6.0 million until 2025, so for 3 more years. Charlie McAvoy, who is 24. First, and one of 2 players 25 or younger on this board. 78 games played, 10 goals, 46 assists for 56 points on the blue line. Not bad. His contract just signed an extension. $9.5 million for 8 more years, so until 2030. That's something to swallow for the cap space, isn't it? McAvoy might be worth every penny of that. Remains to be seen. I think the Bruins are good with him, at least for the next 4 or 5 years. Thereafter, remains to be seen. Next best scorer, Eric Howler. 31 years of age, 78 games played, 18 goals, 26 assists, 44 points. $2.375 million for 1 more year. That's okay. Charlie Coyle, 30. All 82 games played. The only player on the Bruins roster that played all 82 games. 16 goals, 28 assists, 44 points. $5.25 million until 2026. And he's 30. Okay? First contract that is definitely questionable. Next on the board, Jake DeBrusk, 25. One of the 2 that's 25 or younger. 77 games played, 25 goals, 17 assists, 44 points. $4 million cap hit until 2024, and he officially did not cancel his trade request yet. Okay. Craig Smith, 32. 74 games played, 16 goals, 20 assists, 36 points, and he's making $3.1 million for the next year. Finally, Matt Grzelcyk, 28. 73 games played, 4 goals, 20 assists, 24 points, $3.687 million for 2 more years. These were the top scorers. Overall, the Bruins have $2.383 million in cap space, and this does not include the new contract for Patrice Bergeron. They will get some cap relief because Brett Marchand and Charlie McAvoy will miss at least the first 2 months of the new season for injury. They both underwent surgery in May, early June. I think it was May. And they are both expected to be out at least 6 months. Let's see what happens there. So how does it come? They have Marchand, Pastrnak, and also Bergeron on bargain contracts. How do the Bruins get to the point that they have only $2.383 million in cap space? Glad you ask. They're contracts that are at least questionable. Brandon Carlo is a defensive defenseman, okay. He's making $4.1 million until 2027. He scored 15 points in 79 games played. Okay, he is one of the younger guys. I think he's 26. And he's a defensive defenseman, but 15 points for $4.1 million. Elias Lindholm, who is 28. He was dealt from the Anaheim Ducks to the Bruins, signed an 8-year contract for $6.5 million a year, and this runs until 2030. In 10 games he had 5 assists, no goals. For the Bruins, well, small sample size, let's see what happens there. But another $6.5 million against the cap, that's hard to swallow. Because you have 3 contracts on the books that I think are really bad. First one, of course, Nick Foligno, who is 34. He made $3.8 million and he will make $3.8 million next season. He had 64 games played and 13 points as a forward. You could argue, yeah, he's one of the locker room leaders, one of the mentors of the younger guys. The question against that, if you have Patrice Bergeron, you have Brett Marchand, you have Taylor Hall, and who else is over 30? Craig Smith. You have these guys already. Do you need another mentor, locker room guy? For whom? For which young guys? You have McAvoy and DeBrusque, and that's it. You don't have any more young guys on the roster. You don't need another mentor. Especially not for $3.8 million for 15 points. Sorry, 13 points. Mike Riley makes $3 million for 2 more years. He had 17 points in 70 games. Defensive defenseman again, yeah, but you already have a $4.1 million defensive defenseman on the books. Next, Derek Forward, another $3 million for 2 more years, so until 2024. Who had 14 points in 76 games played. Yeah, another defensive defenseman, but you have Forbert, Riley, Carlo, who are all defensive defensemen, and Hampus Lindholm is not the offensive sludge he was as well. So 4 high-paid defensive defensemen on the board, that will not work. Their goaltending. Linus Ullmark makes $5 million until 2025. Yeah, that's fine. Jeremy Swayman has 1 year left on his entry-level contract. So in 2023, he wants to get paid. He played 41 games. Fantastic during the playoffs. Their MVP during the playoffs. That's the way I saw it. And I saw him play in Game 3 and in Game 4 live at TD Garden. Further, it didn't fit on the board. But because of all the trades the Bruins made, they do not have a first-round pick in 2022, so the upcoming draft. They do not have second-round picks either in 2023 or 2024. Because they got Hampus Lindholm, that cost them a first and a second, and the other pick was dealt in another trade, I don't know, last year. Some more cold hard facts. The Bruins right now have, as mentioned, $2.383 million in cap space. They have right now 12 forwards under contract. They have 8 defensemen on the contract and 2 goaltenders. Especially on the forward side, that's not enough for a new season. They have to do something about that. But in these, as mentioned, $2.383 million, the new Bergeron contract is not included in that. And the average age of their forwards right now, without Bergeron, is 29.3 years. So that's one of the older forward groups in the NHL. Their defensive group, average age right now 27. As mentioned, 8 guys under contract. And their goaltenders 25.5. Yeah, Ullmark is 28. Swayman is 23. That's the good thing. So, now, what do I think about the Bruins? I like the Bruins. I had my first NHL game in Boston back in 2003. Since then, of course, yeah, the first game, so I always had sympathy for the Bruins. I wouldn't call me a Bruins fan, but yeah, they're not in the bottom half of my sympathy list of the whole NHL. What can they do next year? Well, without Marchand and McAvoy for the first 2 months of the season, even if Bergeron really comes back, how can they support him without cap space? It will be hard. And even when the roster is at full health and back, let's say maybe mid-November, maybe even early December, let's see what happens there. But without Bergeron, I would say the Bruins are my safe pick to fall out of the playoffs. It could even happen if things go not as planned and maybe Marchand is feeling the age, maybe Pastrnak has an off season, that they could easily fall to the bottom of the Atlantic Division. It's definitely possible. With Bergeron, and you haven't got a full season out of him for quite a while. He always missed 10, 15 games with injury. Even with him, I think the Bruins are definitely on the verge of falling out of the playoffs. And they cannot do anything against that because they have no cap space, because of contracts like these. This definitely is a problem. The defensive group is in the right age, but it's especially at the bottom of the defensive group, it's way too expensive. You can't pay $6 million for your third pairing D. That's way too much. This will not work. And on the forward group, even with Bergeron, where is the center depth? They promoted Eric Howler to second line center last season. It worked relatively good. They made it to the playoffs last year, but that was it. I was very surprised. As mentioned, I was at this game that they won Game 3. And they only won it because the lack of discipline of the Carolina Hurricanes. Game 4, I thought, was about 50-50. In the end, the Bruins, again, on lack of discipline of Carolina, they scored another power play goal, and that basically was the game. But thereafter, Game 5, no chance. Game 6, they won it again. At home, didn't see that game, sorry. And in Game 7, at the end, it was close, but Carolina was the better team all over the series, and they deserved to win this series. Now the Bruins thought, okay, our problem is not the roster, our problem is the coach. In German the expression is schwächstes Glied in der Kette. This means the weakest part of the chain is always the coach. It's so easy to fire a coach and get a new one without looking at where is the real problem on this roster. And I think the real problem on this roster is the lack of center depth, and that they have too many medium range contracts around the $3 to $4 million range, like Nick Foligno, like Mike Riley, Derek Forbert, who are making way too much money for not enough. All these contracts will expire within the next 2 years. But what do you do then? Because Pasta is coming up next year. Swayman is coming up next year. These guys want to be paid, and they need to be paid. Can't do that with all these $3 million contracts on the books. So what's the core of the Bruins? You have McAvoy, you have Swayman, and you have Pastrnak. This is your new core. The other guys, Bergeron, Marchand, they are 37 and 34. This is not your core anymore. This should not be your core anymore. In an ideal world, you have Bergeron in a mentor role for new guys, for guys that are 20, 22, 24 maybe, to guide them along to be the new core. You don't want a 37-year-old player to be your star. You want him as a mentor, maybe on a third line role, doing penalty kill, instructing the kids. You don't want him to be the go-to guy anymore. He deserved to get the money, yeah, sure. But it should not be the point that a 37-year-old guy is the cornerstone and without him you're lost. This should not be the case anymore. So what will happen to the Bruins next season? My pick will be they miss the playoffs. At worst, they could even fall to the bottom of the Atlantic. It's absolutely possible. This roster does not have a last hurrah in them. They had this in 2019. At this point, the GM, so Don Sweeney and Cam Neely, who is the president of hockey operations, should have decided, okay, that's it, we will not go any further, let's start a rebuild or a retool at this point. Now, after 3 more years of denying the need of a rebuild or retool, they are on the point where they cannot do a retool anymore. They have to go full rebuild. This will take some years if they decide to do so. If they don't and deny the need to replace Bergeron, to replace Marchand, because these guys will definitely not be there anymore in 5 years. They will be retired. And they do not have young guys to replace them. They gave away too many picks to have a balanced roster between young guys, old guys that can take them anywhere. Maybe Don Sweeney and Cam Neely are denying that and saying, we still have it in us, we are able for a last hurrah to win another Stanley Cup. I say no. Definitely no. And especially after seeing Game 3 and Game 4 that they only won because of lack of discipline by their opponent. And in the end they lost the series. I think the Bruins are definitely in need for a rebuild. And a new coach might bring some new energy, but this will definitely not be enough. And Vegas can be so happy to have Bruce Cassidy, who is a brilliant coach, who had great success with this aging Bruins roster. Maybe Vegas could be on the verge of winning their first Stanley Cup now as they have Bruce Cassidy. All this remains to be seen. At least I think Vegas will be a playoff team and be able to go a lot further than the Bruins are. Alright, that's it for this one. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and let me know in the comment section below, what do you think what the Bruins should do? Should they go for a last hurrah and give away further parts of their future, or should they finally start a rebuild? I will be very interesting to know what you think. Thanks again for watching. See you soon. Goodbye.